Hi, my name's Kobe Bailey, student athlete of 8 years at Central Coast Sports College and your CCSC podcast host. I'm going to be sharing with you throughout the 3-episode series all the ins and outs of the Big Picture program, as well as the history of CCSC and the future plans. So stay tuned for this 3-episode series where I'll touch base with Paul Chapman, Cameron Moon and Justin Shepherd. Stay tuned and enjoy. This is your host, Kobe Bailey. Alrighty guys, welcome back to the 3rd episode of the CCSC podcast with Kobe Bailey. Got my special guest today, Cameron Moon, looking to talk about all things big picture and what comes to the end and how it all comes together. First of all, I just want to talk about the objectives of the podcast. So it's pretty much for future parents, teachers, students to sort of let them in on what we do at the school and how everything works. So
sounds great. Thanks for having me, Kobe.
No worries. First of all, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Good today.
That's good. Good to hear. So first thing I want to touch on is the 6 learning goals in big picture. So once you sort of come into year 12, you have those 6 things you're working towards. We just want to talk through them and sort of give the viewers an explanation of what they are.
Yeah, so the 6 learning goals are essentially, they're embedded in our program from year 7 right through to year 12. They become a little bit more focused on within the assessment of the credential when we get into year 11 and 12, but they should be embedded within the projects from a very early age. As opposed to traditional classrooms, we don't focus on particular subjects. So in order to, when we give students the opportunity to study whatever it is they want, any topic of their choice or curiosity, we need to make sure that there is depth and broad areas of study within that topic. So we use the learning goals to do that.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. So do you want me to go into the 6?
Could we go through the 6 learning goals? So I'll just sort of name one and we'll just talk about that one.
Yep.
Our first one's knowing how to learn.
Yep. So this is a learning goal that is essentially, as the title announces it to be, that we ask the students to design their learning in a way that suits their learning style. Yeah. So if they are more of a hands-on learner, we would expect them to be making a product or making an artifact as part of their project. If they know that they learn in a particular way, whether it be reading notes or watching video or moving their body, we would ask them to design their learning within their topic in that way.
Yeah, so pretty straightforward, that one. And then personal qualities.
Yeah, so personal qualities is very much like your goal setting. What sort of habits are you trying to develop? Do you need to work on your writing skills? Do we need to be more focused on our time management skills, who we are as people, our character development, those sort of things?
Yeah, awesome. Quantitative reasoning.
Quantitative reasoning is kind of our problem solving learning goal. So how are we assessing different problems and solving them? Is there any sort of traditional sort of mathematics approaches, like could we collect data? How could we display that data? Is there any particular reasoning that needs to come from that quantitative sort of approach within each student's project?
Empirical reasoning.
Yep, so empirical reasoning is kind of like following our scientific processes, like what experiments are we looking at, what scientific process could we follow or dive into a little bit deeper into understanding how particular things work. Are there variables we need to control in the way that we're trying to collect our data, those sort of things?
Yeah, for sure. My favourite, communication.
Communication, you are a great communicator, Kobe. hence this platform, using your skills in knowing how you learn. So communication is essentially how you communicate your learning. So that could be through film, the way you speak, the method of your presentation. It could be art, could be music.
Podcast.
Podcast, fantastic.
And the last one, social reasoning.
Yep, social reasoning is our ethics, our approach to legal things. Are we looking at both sides of the argument, or are we just channeling our views in one particular narrow pathway? So are we looking at the ethics and the legal side of both things within your project. We see a lot of environmental studies, we see a lot of like social justice in this sort of world. Yeah.
I probably should have asked this at the start, just sort of to get an explanation for the viewers, but what's your sort of role within CCSC?
Yeah, so my role is one of the heads of senior college, and within that role I support the academic program. So Justin Shepherd's the other head of college, and we work together to support our senior college teachers in the delivery of the Big Picture program.
And yourself, you've also been an advisor in the past as well?
Yep, so I had the joy of being one of the first advisors here at CCSC, and taking the first graduating class through to Year 12, which was an incredibly valuable experience. Really enjoyed my time as an advisor working with the young student athletes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've obviously got a lot of experience. What's a tip you could give myself and people in my year to sort of plan their work and how to plan ahead in Year 12?
Yeah, so
whether that's a tool or just simply advice.
Yeah, so Year 12 year within the Big Picture program is a pretty important one. The thing I would probably say to most is, if you're still unsure of what pathway it is you want to take or direction in life, sometimes looking back at the projects you have done in earlier years can help you identify a thing that we call a through line, which is something that might be a trend or a connector in each of those projects that might be something that could give you a bit of a hint in a direction that you could take post-school. Not ignoring those early projects as pieces of work that could be used as evidence within our learning goals. Sometimes in Year 9 and 10 there can be a really rich piece of work within communication or empirical reasoning, but sometimes I think our students sort of think that the most rich work comes when you're older, but it can often be a really important and powerful sort of project that the students did early on in their Big Picture journey.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like, I look back at some of the old projects and that sort of sparked something for one of my newer projects. So I totally agree. So we spoke about the credential, and I just wanted to touch on, how does that get you into university for the people that don't know?
Yep, so without having the ATAR here at CCSC, or that process of getting into university, we use the IBPLC, the International Big Picture Learning Credential, which is an assessment that takes into account the students' learning both inside and outside the classroom, and also gives the students an agency to put forward the work that they believe represents them best. So through the process of an advisor working with that student athlete for numerous years, even that advisor's understanding of that student athlete comes into account. So as opposed to sitting a test that represents your knowledge on that one day as an anecdotal view of who you are as a learner, the Big Picture Credential takes a longer term view of you and what you have achieved and grown within our learning goals, within the Big Picture design, over a longer period of time. So we'll utilise that tool to demonstrate who you are as a learner, along with your accomplishments, so any certificates that you've achieved, your sporting accolades. You will also do a video profile and a personal statement and represent your work that you have completed throughout your journey onto a website that can then be forwarded to the universities as a demonstration of who you are as a learner and that you are prepared to enter their courses. You're connected to your interest or passion area that you're applying for, and that you have industry experience and knowledge that demonstrates to them that you are ready to accept entry to their university. So it's usually followed by an interview, but the process of the credential has been incredibly powerful for our learners to explain to the universities that they are ready for tertiary education. Yeah,
no, very well said, very well said. We've also, I get a lot of confusion when I try to explain the Big Picture program to, like, for example, football teammates and stuff like that. They're like, oh, how does that get you into uni? But I I've sort of tried to explain to them that you can still get apprenticeships, and well, that's the main goal really for Big Picture, isn't it? To get work placement and apprenticeships based off this work. So
yeah, so it works in both avenues, whether it be tertiary education, university and colleges, or whether it be a vocation around a TAFE course, an apprenticeship, even just into the workforce, whether it be retail, hospitality, those areas. What I like about the program is the LTI program, the Learning Through Interest, allows students to try out those industries. It allows them to connect with people in the industry that can be mentors and help them understand what they need to develop before they lead into that industry, and can also cross things off the list for our student athletes, that they're not going to hopefully change too many careers when they leave us. They've already connected to at least a pathway for the next couple of years post school.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. Like, I always think, like, when I go into internships, that's going to be the perfect one, but sometimes it's not. But that's a good thing as well, because then you can just tick that off and you're sort of one step closer to the career you want. So we spoke about the IBPLC.
Yeah.
I wanted to also talk about how does the credentialing, as a teacher, past advisor, how do you sort of mark each student? Like, is there a tool to make it all consistent through each student?
Yeah, so there are things called the learning frames, and they belong under each umbrella of the learning goals. Yeah, so it is a process that allows the advisor to choose the best examples of that student's work against each of the learning goals. So, for example, in communication, the exhibitions that happen at the end of every term, which can be a 1-hour presentation from that student communicating their learning, it is always a really strong piece of evidence for the communication frame. So there are indicators in the communication learning goal that the advisors will choose a level that they believe represents that student's work. And there are 4 collection points, 2 in Year 11 and 2 in Year 12. And all of that data is collected on that student over that long period of time, and that forms part of the assessment. So you as a learner going through the credential process, at the end of it you will get what essentially looks like a flower, and there are levels 1 to 5 on each of the 6 learning goals, and the size of the petal will be determined by the level that you get.
Bring on the 5s.
Yeah. I think communication, you give it a good shake, mate.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. You got to be good at something. So we've also got you touched on it a little bit, the graduation portfolio, your website. Do you have any advice for what sort of ways you can make that look the best for your sort of workplace that you want to go to, or university?
Yeah, my only piece of advice is probably make it specific to the industry you want to go into. Yeah, so if you're looking to go into an IT sort of world, then we would expect your website to be pretty well set up in that space. We probably wouldn't expect to see a Google Sites as a platform to build that on. We'd probably expect to see a little bit more IT ability within the coding and that sort of world to demonstrate that you actually have those skills.
Lucky I'm not going into IT.
Yeah, we've all got our strengths.
Yeah.
So probably that's specific, and then including the work that demonstrates who you are and the results you're going to get on your credential. So if you are a level 5 in communication, your website should demonstrate that you are a level 5 in communication with the work that you put on there.
So things like your video profiling and stuff
video
like that.
profile, you might actually have recorded some exhibitions. You might put some snippets of your exhibitions on there that demonstrate that you are a very apt sort of communicator.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's say you want to go into an engineering sort of field. We would expect to see some of your engineering, your mathematics work, that sort of thing on that page demonstrating you have those skills. That portfolio is what the universities are going to receive as their first view of your work and what you can do. And they're going to decide when they see that if you are ready for their university course. And they may also choose to interview you just to check.
Just a double check, yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. Good advice. I'll take it on board. So we've also got big picture commitments at CCSC. Can we talk about the main three? I would say there is, but I'm sure there's more. But the main three I would say is journals, reading, and math pathways.
Yeah. So journals, we've had an interesting relationship as advisors over the years that we've tried many different ways to get our student athletes to journal, to find purpose in the process of journaling. And I believe it is a very individualised approach to it, and finding a way that works for you.
100%.
So early on in my advisory's journey, I always tried to get them to try different ways of journaling as an opportunity to connect with something that is meaningful, that they'll actually do it. You know, it's
otherwise you won't enjoy it. You won't want to do it if it's not interesting.
It feels like a bit of a chore, and if you don't believe that there's purpose there, you may not particularly connect with the process. So a lot of our advisors will theme them, so it might be a reflection on your game on the Monday after the weekend's game. It might be a reflection on the LTI that you completed the week before on the Friday, or how are you preparing for your LTI tomorrow if you were to do that on Thursday. So journaling is important. We also find that it's the process of reflective writing is helpful, if done correctly, to help the students in their process of writing their autobiography in year 11 and 12, which they need to reflect upon their journey of how they got to where they are now. Yeah. So journaling, reading. So if I reflect on my own journey of reading, I never really viewed myself as a reader, but when I reflect on my journey to where I am today, I did actually read a couple of different series of books, but what I discovered pretty early on is if I don't connect with the way that it's written or the story that's included in that, I'm just not going to finish the book. Yeah,
100%.
So that's probably the most important thing, is find an author that you like, or find a style of book. I think a lot of our students go to autobiographies, which are potentially a little bit harder to read, as opposed to some fiction, some teen fiction, that sort of thing. I really loved Tomorrow When the War Began series by James Marsden. I really liked that. Matthew Riley, I liked those sort of books as well.
Yeah, awesome.
Even Mockingjay and the
Hunger Games.
Hunger Games. I didn't mind those. I read those when I was a little bit older as well, when I was travelling. But
I started off reading like autobiographies and stuff because I sort of saw it as inspiration, but as I got reading them, it was really difficult to read. It was hard to stick with. So I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Sort of went into that non-fiction as I went on. Yeah.
And I found within my own attempts to get into literature and reading a bit more is I'm very environmental in that way, that if I'm not in the right location, or I'm not, I don't feel like I have the freedom and the brain capacity to read right now, I just don't do it.
Yeah.
So like traveling, if I'm ever traveling, I'll find that, you know, sitting at an airport or having that downtime when I'm not in my everyday life, I find it easier to read. So finding practices and times within your own life where you actually can focus on that reading is important. But I probably connect with audiobooks a little bit more than actual physical books, and that's probably the way that I cover a lot of books nowadays, and I've seen that be successful for a lot of our student athletes as well. Yeah,
that's same for me for sure. I get way more invested in it. So the big picture commitments, do they go towards the credentialing at all? Or
they can be. Journals are a fantastic piece of evidence to use when we look at reflections for personal qualities. We can often see social reasoning and those sort of things within those journals as well, depending on the depth of reflection that students actually include in those things. Yes, absolutely.
So you'd say just depending on the depth that they go into, whether it could be used as evidence?
Yeah, and even like book reports and reflections on books, and implementing those strategies, if they are like more of your like personal development, self-help books and that sort of thing, we can use a lot of that evidence. If the students are actually embedding those practices that they learn from those texts into their life, they can be really important sort of pieces of evidence as well.
Yeah, nice.
The third one around the maths, we include our Math Pathways program as part of the Big Picture commitments. we believe engaging in that mathematical space and the style of that program being specific to every learner matches really nicely within the big picture commitments. It also keeps the students' mathematical knowledge sort of ticking along. We do still see a lot of mathematics work within each project, but yeah, for a lot of our students to get that, to ensure that they have the level of mathematics to exist within real life, we still use that program within there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Math pathway is my favourite.
Yeah.
So I've got one signature question. What's one piece of advice for myself and other people in Year 12 going into the big world?
Oof.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. Probably, I've often used this quote in a lot of my classes, but I do genuinely believe who you are is more important than what you know. In that way that the way you treat people, your willingness to try new things, the sort of the legacy you leave within that space is more important than the braggy, what have you done, where have you been, where did you come from sort of thing. So I see a lot of graduates that is important to them at this point in their life, and when they leave and realise that they are just a small fish in a big pond, when they leave, it's an important piece. I grew up in a small country town, about 6,000 people in the town, and I live 60 k's out of that town in a small farming community, and it wasn't until I went to university in Bathurst that I realised that the world's quite big. And then from there I went to another town that was a little bit bigger, and then I moved to London for a year. And until I moved to London and understood what the rest of the world was like, I probably didn't really understand where I fit into a lot of things. So yeah, being open to opportunities and understanding that who you are is important, like that character piece. And just have a crack at every opportunity you can.
It's very inspirational.
Oh, thanks, man.
I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
It's Cameron Moon, everyone.